And now it's my privilege and my honor to introduce my son and our children's pastor and youth pastor here at Freedom Christian Center, Joshua Franklin. So yeah, give him a big hand. Have fun, man. You want your Bible? Oh, I might need that.
Well, hello. It's always interesting, like standing in front of a bunch of adults after standing in front of kids and youth. It takes a few minutes to go, okay, wow. But it's my privilege to be able to come here and just to speak and to share what God's put on my heart. Because not everybody that's my age gets to do something like this. There's very few people that get the opportunity. So anytime I get to, it's a privilege. Just as it's a privilege anytime I get to stand in front of your kids and your teenagers. Whether we're sitting in a circle or standing in front of, or we're sitting around the table having snack asking, all right, what did we learn today? It's always a privilege. It's always a privilege to speak the things that God has hidden into your heart to other people, the things that God has revealed to your heart to others. And so I absolutely love getting the opportunity to do that. And what's even more exciting for me is I get to speak on the cross. Because the cross is just an epic part of what being a Christian's about. Because in the cross, there's so many things coming together in one place and at one time. You look back and forth throughout Scripture and you see pictures and images and glimpses and shadows of the cross. You look through the Old Testament over and over again. It's another thing pointing to the cross. It's another thing pointing to what happened on that day. And so often, we as Christians, we look at the cross and we like to hold it out in front of us. We go, oh, it's so amazing, the cross. It's so wonderful, it's so beautiful, which it is. And we look at the cross and we go, it's so great that Jesus would die for my sins. It's awesome. And it is so true. It's so great and so magnificent that He would die for us. It's so wonderful what He did. But at the same time, we often miss the real heart behind the cross. Because we look at the cross and we say, well, my sin is the reason why He went there. It's my sin. That's the whole reason why He went there. When that's really not the case. Yes, my sin took Him there, but there's something else that drew Him to the cross. There's something else that compelled Him to go to that place. And that's what I want to talk about. Because what was it that Jesus was seeing that drove His heart to the cross? And I can use the word drove. It wasn't like He just willy-nilly kind of was walking along and, hey, look, there's the cross. Ooh, let's go there, I guess. I mean, it wasn't like that's what was going on in His heart. No, when He was born and as He grew up, He was constantly looking at the cross saying, this is right where I'm going. I'm living my life to get to the cross. So what was it that gave Him that motivation? And the simple answer to that is His love. His love is what drove Him to the cross. Yes, our sin took Him there, but His love is the thing that motivated Him to go. And it's not just a love like, oh, He loves me like God loves everybody, like I love pizza and tacos. Like it's not that type of love. He was seeing something way more than that. His affections were set on something, and that was His bride. Because when Jesus looked at the cross, He saw His bride. That was the thing He was looking at when He was seeing the cross. And so that's what I'm talking about today, is the thing that He was seeing. And so if you open your Bibles to John 17:24, that's the first place we're going to go. We're going to see that Jesus, he had this thing dead set in his eyes. That this is the exact thing he was looking for. He was looking for his bride. He was searching for her. He was going to the cross to win her. You there? All right. In John 17:24, it says, Father, I want those who you have given me to be with me where I am, and to see my glory, the glory you have given me, because you loved me before the creation of the world. Righteous Father, though the world does not know you, I know you, and they know that you have sent me. I have made you known to them, and they will continue to make you known, in order that the love you have for me may be in them, and I myself may be in them. See, when Jesus is looking at the cross, that's what he was thinking. This is Jesus. He's praying this in the Garden of Gethsemane before the cross. This is a few hours before the cross. This is what's in his heart and what's in his mind. Is, Father, those who you have given me, I want to be with them. I want them right here next to me, just as you and I are right next to each other. I want them super close. I want to be hugging them, cuddling them, and calling them my own. If I can steal the skunk from the cartoon. That's what it was in Jesus' heart. He's saying, I'm looking at them. They're the reason why I'm going where I'm going. I want them close. I want them with me. That's what's in the heart of Christ. That's what he's looking for. And see, when you understand that when we look at the cross, we may just see the cross. When he looks at it, he's seeing his bride. He's seeing his bride. He's seeing the love that the Father has for him and that he has for the Father now being a part of humanity. Now interacting back and forth, loving him and him loving them. And that's what the cross is about. It's about his bride. If we lose sight of the fact that the cross is about the bride, we're missing out. We're missing out on all the importance that it brings in. In Hebrews, it says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorned its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And the reason why I like this verse so much is because this helps prove to me that Jesus, he really did have a bride in mind. Because it says he endured the cross. And I think about that, and I think about the verse in Matthew and the verse in Mark where Jesus is talking to the Father, and he's going, hey, Father, like, if there's any way, let's pass this cup thing. I don't really want to go there. And the reason why this talks to me about that he's seeing his bride is because as guys, we do crazy things for love. We endure plays and ballets and chick flicks and dancing lessons and you name it. We're willing to endure it because of love. We're going to do things that we normally wouldn't do because there's somebody that we love. And we're going to do whatever it takes to win her over. And the more that I'm in a dating relationship, the more I see that in my own heart, and I go, wow, this is kind of interesting. I never knew I could do that. Dancing? All right, yeah, I'll look into learning how to dance. So we'll go dancing, sure. I don't dance. Oh, great. Here we go. But that was Jesus, that was what was in his heart. He looks at the cross and he goes, this is not going to be fun, but I'm going there. For the joy set before me, I'm going there. When you see the cross like Jesus sees it, it motivates your heart because you start seeing love everywhere. The cross becomes an image of love, not just an image of dealing with some issues that humanity has. It becomes true and utter love from the Father moving into humanity. True and utter love from the Son impacting people's hearts. And when you grab a hold of that, the cross becomes so much more serious to you. It's not something you can just put on top of a building. It's not something that you can just wear around your neck and go, oh, that just shows you that I'm a Christian. It really becomes a statement and a proof of His love to your heart and to your life. And like, I think about the cross and I go, God, like, that was really intense. The cross was really intense. I mean, to think that the Romans, the people that actually loved torturing people as they killed them, came up with this great idea called the cross to make it absolutely painful. And then, to top it off, we're deciding not only to nail Him to the cross, which is bad enough, but we're going to do other things to Him before He even gets there, so He's absolutely in the most pain possible. That's what the cross, that's what happened to Him on the cross. And I think about Jesus and I go, wow, that's showing some serious amount of love. That I'm going to use this, the cross, to show how much I love. Because Jesus could have just as easily said, hey, Father, can we use like lethal injection? That's more humane. The electric chair, there's another great one right there. How about hanging? I hear that goes pretty quick. I mean, like, there is all these tools throughout humanity of how we punish criminals. But yet, in the heart of God, it was the cross that He chose. Because that showed the amount of love that He had. When you look at that whole story leading up to the cross, you got to look at it and you got to be saying, this is a man who loves something. This is God who loves. Why is He doing all these things? Why is He enduring so much? It's to prove how much He loves. It's to prove to humanity for all time that I do love you. That's why He went to such extremes. Like if you read the writings of Josephus, he talks about people who just getting whipped like Jesus was whipped, die. They talk about the cross and they talk about all the different ways that this is absolutely horrendous, whether you can't breathe or your muscles are going crazy or your nerves are screaming insane. Like, it's all pain. And yet He makes it through all that. He makes it through all that. He chooses to go through all that. Why? Because He saw a bride. Because He saw His bride. And like, I think about, for me, I've never been in anything like Jesus had to endure. But I think about painting because I hate painting. If there's one thing on this earth I hate, it's painting. And we've painted our house twice now in my lifetime. And both times, what? Oh, let that not be God. But my brother will vouch, like the first time we painted our house, it took us like 2 weeks to paint the house. And so every day during the summer for 2 weeks. I mean, thank goodness we had a radio and I learned every song on the country music station by that point. I hated that because I'm seeing my friends going off surfing. I'm seeing my friends going to have fun and I'm painting the house. And I hate painting already and it's hot because it's the summertime in Florida. And the thing that I had to keep before my mind was my dad said he's going to pay me at the end of this. I'm getting paid for this. So I better do a good job. When I'm done, I'm getting paid. And every time I would lose sight of that, painting became that much more miserable. That much more, I don't want to do this. That much more, I wake up in the morning and go, oh, we're painting. Can I pull weeds? Please. Ooh, hi. I mean, seriously, like I was literally going through all the things I've ever done in my life and go, I'd rather do that right now. I don't want to paint. But as long as I kept the paycheck that I was going to get in front of my eyes, as long as I remembered that I'm going to get paid at some point, it was a lot easier. And that's the same way it was with Christ. As he worked and as he went towards the cross, as he was enduring everything, he kept the end in mind, which was his bride. He kept the prize in front of his eyes. And when we look at the cross, we not only have to understand that Jesus was looking at his bride, but that the cross really shows the extreme amount of affection and love that he had. Because he really had a ton of love. And we look at things and we say, wow, like we see things in the news where a parent will sacrifice their life to save their kid, or we'll see things where people do just crazy things for somebody else because they care about them. And that's exactly what he did for us. He went to the cross to show us how much he loved. He went there because he had so much love for us. So much. He gave his life for us. And we all like those movies where you have the guy who's the hero, and he goes through all these crazy trials, all these crazy issues to win the girl. Like, that's all throughout Hollywood. That's all throughout human history. Everybody likes those movies. I mean, they're in almost every movie, that theme. Guy gets the girl after such and such. That's what humanity loves to see. God put that in our hearts so that the cross would impact us so. He put that because he said, I'm going to give a type and a shadow so that when I go to the cross, they start to grab a hold of how much love I have for humanity. And so that's what's going on in the cross. It is a king dying for his bride. It is a king going all the way for the person that he loves the most. It's not just a hero, but it's a king that has everything and controls everything, who in a moment could send his entire army to go and do the job. But he chooses to humble himself and go low to show the depth of his love. That's what's happening at the cross. That's what Christ is seeing. He's seeing his bride. And he's saying, I'm going to go as low as possible to prove my love. To prove the immense amount that I have. And I love this quote from Alan Hood. It is the abandonment of one's own life in the pursuit to save another. It's this shameless humbling for love. That is what the cross is. And God can't go any lower than what he did. He can't go any lower. Because he went as low as possible for his bride. When everything on the outside and everyone else would have said, she's not worth it. Because it's not hard to find somebody that will give their life for something that is of immense worth. You just rarely hear about it for something that looks as if it's of little worth. Because at the cross, Christ was dying for his bride. But at that moment, she didn't look like what everybody would have thought she should have. Because at that moment, the king was dying for a harlot, not for a princess. That's what the cross is about. And I love the book of Hosea. That book hits my heart so much, like any other book does. And my favorite thing about that is it shows the history of humanity. Because you have God walking with mankind. Mankind falls. And then he goes again. In Hosea 3, it's 3:1 through 3, it says, "Then the Lord said to me, go and love your wife again, even though she commits adultery with another lover. This will illustrate the Lord still loves Israel, even though the people have turned to other gods and love to worship them. So I brought her back for 15 pieces of silver, for 5 bushels of barley and a measure of wine." Right there, Hosea is saying, this is what I'm doing because the Lord cares like this. He tells me to go again and love her. And what totally strikes me in this verse is that the price Hosea pays is the exact same price that Judas gets for betraying Jesus. Judas betrays Jesus for a slave's price. Hosea buys back his wife for a slave's price. Judas gets 30 pieces of silver. Hosea gives 15 plus some extra stuff, which equals out to be about 30 pieces of silver. Do you see the parallel there? Jesus, he sees his bride, but he doesn't just see her right where she's at that moment. He sees her farther on than just that place. He's going to the cross because he sees a bride beyond the cross. He sees a bride further down the road. He sees further than what we often see. We look at the cross and we go, wow, that's a great place. Let's stop there. I got in. I got my fire insurance. That's not what Jesus is seeing when he's looking at the cross. He's not just seeing us getting off the hook. He's seeing a bride. He's looking for a bride. He's not looking for people who are just going to hang out with him in heaven. If that's what your thought is when you look at the cross, you're missing the whole point. You're missing everything. If all you're looking at is I get to go to heaven, you're missing it. Because the cross is so much more. I think about this. When it comes to wedding pictures, I've never seen a single wedding picture or an engagement picture where the groom is at the jewelry store handing in the money to purchase the ring. I've never seen one of those where you got the groom with one hand with the cash or the credit card, and in the other hand, the lady's handing him the ring. Never seen one. But yet so often we stop and we look at the cross just like that. Just like that. It's the point where we're exchanging the funds. It's just a transfer right there. But yet the whole purpose of buying the ring is for the girl. It's about her. It's about the bride. They take pictures of it because it's a symbol of, hey, we're getting together. That's why there's so many pictures like that. It's not about just the transfer. It's not about just the act that's taking place. It is about the long term in mind. And when Jesus, he goes to the cross, it's not about just getting me to heaven. If all we stand there and go, it's about getting me to heaven, then in our terms today, we call people like that gold diggers or moochers or freeloaders. People that are in it for what they get out of it, we have terms for them. And if all we do is we look at the cross and we say, my fire insurance, or I get my get out of the hospital free card, or I get out of my emotional issues card. If that's all we're looking at when we look at the cross, we're missing it. If that's all we want out of the cross, we've missed the whole issue that Christ is trying to do. We may see the cross, but he's seeing a bride. And if we're not seeing a bridegroom when we look at the cross, we're not seeing what he sees. We're missing it because he sees a cross, we see a cross, he sees a bride. We have to see a cross and we have to see what he sees also, which is a wedding. Because he not only sees the bride at the cross, but he sees the wedding. And when you look at the cross, the wedding theme is always flowing through it. The more you look at it, the more you discover, hey, there's a lot of this wedding symbolism in here. I wonder why. Maybe it's coincidence. No. Because Jesus is trying to get a message across. The Father throughout time is trying to get a message across. He's saying, the cross is about how much I love. And my son, he sees a wedding. He sees a bride and he sees a wedding. That's why he's looking at the cross. And the cross, it's just the engagement. It's the process of being engaged. That's what the cross is about. It's starting that really deep relationship to the end goal. And the first way that the cross represents that, being a proposal, has to do with the cup. Because we have Jesus and he's standing there in front of the disciples at the Last Supper, takes a piece of bread, takes the cup. Says, hey, this is the cup of the new covenant, which is shed for the forgiveness of sin. Whenever you do this, do it in remembrance of me. Okay, we got a cup there. That's interesting. Okay. Then you have Jesus at Gethsemane again. He asks the Father, hey, Father, can you take this cup away from me? Interesting that he uses that phrase. Because in Jewish tradition, the way it works is the guy and his dad goes and sees the girl and her dad. They sit down, they have a meal, they talk, they negotiate, and at the end of it, the groom picks up a cup of wine, takes a sip, passes it to her, and if she accepts, she takes a sip. And that's what's happening at the cross. The cross is about a wedding. At that point, when he takes a sip and she takes a sip, it's as if they're married in the Jewish culture. At that point, you have to now have divorce papers. And so Jesus, he's showing this in his imagery, in his words, in the way that he's talking. He's expressing this idea that I'm going to this cross and it's about a wedding. It's not just about this event, but there's something further. This is the engagement. This is where things start to happen, but I'm desiring to live over here. This is where I'm ending at. This is what I'm going for. This is why I'm about to do what I'm about to do, is for that over there of being with you forever and you being with me forever. And I love Alan Hood. Without the relationship with God at the core, we will suffer boredom and legalism and slowly bleed into a life of unrighteousness and sin. When we look at the cross and we don't see his intense love and we don't see the wedding, we're moving into a life of boredom. If Christianity is boring to you, you're missing the heart of the cross. If you're struggling to walk in righteousness, you're missing the heart of the cross. Because it's all about a bride and it's all about a wedding. And Jesus just doesn't stop there showing, hey, the cross is about a wedding. He goes on to prove it with what he does. Because right after he takes a sip, she takes a sip, the next thing that happens is you pay the dowry. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, in the old days, if you found a girl that you liked, you had to pay a price to the dad to get her. And so, the more beautiful, the more attractive, the better off she is, the higher the price was. So what does that mean if the God of the universe pays with his own life for you? Can you get any higher a price? Because that's what happened at the cross. Was Jesus not only entered into the engagement, but he paid the dowry. Because he was looking for a wedding. He was looking towards a day where him and humanity became one. And if the price was his life, then so be it. That was what was in his heart. If you don't see his view of a wedding, you don't understand why. You look at it and you go, man, God is just a mean guy that he would go and kill his son like that. That he would treat his son like that. That's just so mean. He's not nice. I mean, he's looking down at heaven, at humanity. He goes, hey, son, go down there and die for them. Because I don't really like you. If you don't view the cross with the lens of a bride and a wedding, you have a wrong view of God. Because you can't help but to see him as mean. Because it's love that he would lay down his life. If you don't understand that love is what's motivating him to lay down his life, you're missing it. The cross, it really was our dowry. In Revelation 19:6 and 9, Jesus goes on to express it really clearly, what he thought about the cross and what he's looking at. He goes on to explain really clear, it's all about a wedding. Humanity starts at a wedding and it ends at a wedding. And there's weddings that pop up in between. Why else would his first miracle be at a wedding? I mean, if he's going to come out and show the world what he's going to do, he picks a wedding for a reason. Some people may go, well, Mary really pushed it on him. You can't push anything on God. And to think that you can, it's just crazy. In Revelation 19:6, it says, and I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, as the sound of many waters, as the sound of a mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia, for the Lord God omnipotent reigns. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. And to her it was granted to be arrayed in fine linen, clean and bright. For the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. Then he said to me, Right, blessed are those who are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, These are the true sayings of God. Right there, Jesus is saying, the true sayings of God is what I just said, which is this thing is ending in a wedding. I'm going to have my bride. She's not going to just be known as the harlot. She's not going to just be known as the bride who tries really, really hard. She's not just going to be known as the bride who's doing okay. She's going to be known as the Lamb's wife. That's where this thing is going. That's where this thing is ending. It is ending in a wedding. Jesus, all throughout his parables, was talking about a king who has a wedding for his son. Because this is an important idea for the disciples to have. He's trying to get that across. He doesn't repeat any of his other parables. But the wedding theme seems to keep coming up. It must be important. Especially since Jewish people, when they were talking about something important, they would repeat things. He's talking about what's in front of him. He has the wedding before him the entire time. Because he goes into earth going, I'm coming for my bride. I'm going there because I'm going to make the payment so that I can have my wedding. Because the Father will have a family and the Son will have a bride. That is the goal of God on earth. And see, he doesn't just stop there. He doesn't just stop with, I have a bride. I'm going for a wedding. But she's going to be just like me. Because we see a cross, he saw a bride. We see a cross, he sees a wedding. We see a cross, he sees a companion. Someone who's just like him. Just like him. He went to the cross so that he could have somebody just like him. Because he knows that I was created. Actually, yes, I can say that. He knows that me, Joshua, was created to be just like him, equally yoked. To desire the same things that he does. To think the way that he thinks. To love the way that he loves. To feel the way that he feels. That's his end goal. And the cross is about getting us to that place of being one with him. That the prayer that he prayed in John 17 would happen. That we would be one. That we would be just alike. That we would be together. That we would love the same. That's why he ends the whole chapter in 1 Corinthians 13 with that we will be like him. And we will know fully even as we are fully known. He's looking at the day. He's pointing at the day. The wedding happens and we're one. It's not like normal people's weddings where, hey, you get married and now you work out the process of becoming one. He's better than that. He works the whole process all the way up to the wedding. So the wedding happens and now we're one. We're thinking the same. We're on the same page. We're ruling the same. Because he wants somebody that is just like him. He wants somebody that feels just as he feels. And in Revelation 2, verse 26, it says, to him who overcomes and does my will to the end, I will give authority over nations. He will rule with them. He will rule them with an iron scepter. He will dash them to pieces like pottery, just as I have received authority from my Father. I don't know if you guys understand this, but this is what was prophesied in Isaiah about the Messiah. And Jesus says right there, my bride is going to be just like me. He says it all throughout Revelation. He talks about we're a kingdom of kings and priests. Just like Jesus is a king and a priest in the order of Melchizedek. The Hebrew writer talks about that. How there's a kingdom, a king and priest, all in one guy, and Jesus fulfilled it. And yet Jesus goes on in Revelation 3 and to say that's the way the church is going to be. He says it in Timothy as well. He talks about how they're going to be equally yoked with me. That they're going to be just like me. They're going to walk with the same heart. And I love, where is it? Here we go. I was looking for it. I love Corinthians 11:2, where Paul says, "For I am jealous for you with godly jealousy, for I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ." See, Christ, he was looking, and he was seeing a wedding, and he was seeing more. Paul had that heart that's saying, Christ, when he went to the cross, he wasn't just looking at forgiving sins. He was looking at winning his bride. He was looking at a wedding, and he was looking at a companion. With these things in our hearts, the Christian walk is full of life. Without these things, it's lame. If we don't see the relationship that we have with Christ and his end goal, it's lame and boring. We can find better things to do with our time than sit on Sunday for 2.5 hours listening to some guy drone on. But when we understand that it is about God loving us with everything that he is and becoming one with us, the Christian life is full of life. And I just want to bring it to a close with these thoughts. And that really is, God sent his son to die a criminal's death because he loved so much. Because he saw that you and I were of equal value to the price he was paying. Our value was equal to the price he was paying. God wasn't getting ripped off. He wasn't getting gypped. He wasn't overpaying. He was paying a price equal to what he knew he was getting. In the end, he knew it was worth it. In the end, in order to have somebody just like himself, somebody that loved him freely, but viewed everything just like he viewed it, there was only one price to pay to receive that, and to cause that to happen in a free will heart. And that was the giving of himself on the cross. And so if we look at the cross and we see it's just about what? Gimme, 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 and all the blessing stuff. We're missing it. Because we see a cross, he's seeing a bride. We see a cross, he's seeing a wedding. We see a cross, he's seeing a companion. And that's what all of time is about. It's about the wedding. It's about the companion. It's about his bride. And so, if you don't know Jesus, and you want to have him in your heart, because you want to have somebody that loves you like that, that's willing to go all the way, that's willing to go absolutely low for you, that's what the cross is about. That's why he died for us. Is because he wanted to show you how much he loved you. And so, if that's you, if God's talking to your heart and he's saying, I love you. I want you to be with me. I've given everything that I have to be with you. And your heart may be beating really fast, or you may just know. I want you just to come up here, and I'm just going to lead you into accepting what he did for you, into accepting the proposal, as I said earlier. Because it really is about you and him becoming one. That's what the cross is about. The cross is about us and God being one.